Juan, Brownsville, Corpus Christi, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, San Marcos, and today Austin. Because we are part of the journeys of resistance against SB4 and Operation Lone Star. This is the deal. The governor of Texas, Mr. Greg Abbott, and all of these politicians had made out of Texas the epicenter of the anti-immigrant, racist, white supremacist agenda. And we need to call it what it is. Because he's using our taxpayers' money, $10 billion, to put 10,000 state troopers and state National Guard in my community, in El Paso. They had taken over of Eagle Pass Public Park, Shelby Park. They continue to build water walls, setting up barbed wire, and they are killing our people.
On purpose.
As before,
bragging about
it's
it on
not
Twitter.
only something that is going to affect immigrants coming across the border or undocumented immigrants in the state of Texas. As before, it's criminalizing everybody, citizens, residents that have a relation with undocumented immigrants. So let's make Texas now the epicenter of the resistance and the fight for justice. And I'm gonna pass it over to our leader, Samantha Singleton, that is gonna close this discourse. Thank you.
What kind of dragon?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Samantha Singleton, and I'm the policy director at the Border Network for Human Rights located in El Paso, Texas.
They're real chill. That's why I like them.
We've been traveling through key regions throughout the state of Texas promoting our We Will Resist campaign. This campaign was launched because of the disparities and constitutional rights violations that are taking place in our communities and in the state of Texas. What's happening in the state of Texas is a violation of our human and constitutional rights. When legislators introduce and pass bills and the governor signs these bills into law, it goes against liberty and justice for all. It sounds the bullhorns for the continuance of white supremacy, hate, xenophobia, and systemic racism. Operation Lone Star and the passage of Senate Bill 4 have people believing that there is an invasion issue. There isn't an invasion issue. There's a humanitarian crisis and a lack of welcoming infrastructure to those seeking a better life. There's a hatred for people of color. There's an issue for lack of respect for human dignity. The constitutional and civil rights for communities of colors are hanging by a thread. It's time for all of us to reject these attempts and unite to dismantle this broken and inhumane abuse and inequality. And that is why I'm in this movement, to take back the mic from extremists, raise our voices and votes, and make our power felt from the State House to the White House, to wake the sleeping giant and to be a resurrection, not an insurrection.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today. Thank you for your witness.
Don't get me
Thank you for
started on
taking
Jim
the time
Harrington
on Saturday.
and the Texas
For many of
Civil Rights
us,
Project.
many of you, this is not
They
the
haven't done
first
anything
time,
for me.
nor the last time that we're going to be
They
here.
just ask for my help. They never do anything.
During the pandemic, a few years back, our government created what they called the essential workers. The essential workers, and who were they?
Me.
They were the farm workers who put food on our table so that we could stay in our houses, safe. They were the people who worked in the meat processing plants here in Texas. They were the people that were called critical retail so that we could go shopping. They were the people that were health workers. They were people that were and are defined as being the lower level of our economic scale. But they are the people, the essential people on whom we rely. And did these essential workers who had a death rate from COVID higher than the general population, who had a hospitalization rate higher than the general population, did they get extra pay? Did they get their minimum wage? If they chose not to work because they were afraid and were health compromised, did they get unemployment? They were fired. They were fired. The essential workers. The essential workers. The essential workers. Howard Thurman, a great spiritual leader of the civil rights movement, called the essential workers the disinherited. The disinherited. And he used that word because it meant that people were being deprived of their inheritance. Disinherited. He called these people folks, the essential workers, people with their backs against the wall, who were oppressed by poverty, who were oppressed by race, who were oppressed by the economic system. People with their backs against the wall. So I think for me today is to call us to keep working. The people went before us, the people that were hanged 2 blocks from here in the spectacle lynchings that went on in Texas, or the people that the Hispanic community that was shot in the back by the Texas Ranger, whose glorious statue we have here, did what they did because they were depending on us to pick up the hope and continue, to pick up the torch and run another marathon as they ran a marathon for us. And we betray their hope if we don't do the job and carry it on to the next generation. This is about solidarity. This is not about charity. This is not about a weekend excursion. This is about our life. Solidarity, solidarity. And this means reaching out, meeting people, talking to them, and be part of that human rights movement that those folks in front of us, before us, died for. Before I do the ending that we're hearing, I want to do one more thing with you all, and I wish you would join me. I have years working in the farm worker movement, and one of the ways we always ended a meeting as we were walking out the door to the boycott or to the march was the organized clap. All right? So let's do it. Slow, and then we... Si se puede. Si se puede. That was pretty good. We'll do it one more time. Because I want you to si se puede out of here and organize 5 more people by the end of the week. Today's the end of the week. Next week, 5 more people. All right? Here we go. Si se puede. All right, here's the punchline. And this is why I'm in the movement. This is why we are in the movement. To take back the mic from the extremists, to raise our voices and votes, to make our power felt. Here, the State House, and there in the White House. We are the sleeping giant to wake up. Resurrection, resurrection, resurrection. Amen.
Good afternoon, mi gente de Austin. Today we are gathered here to address a critical issue that affects us at an underlying issue of poverty, our mental health illness. The pandemic brought to light the iniquities of mental health system that we rely on. Before the pandemic, there were several barriers to accessing mental health and counseling services. However, the gap between the need of these services and their availability has only grown wider, especially as we continue to see the lingering impact of COVID illness and isolation of young adults. This is particularly true for marginalized communities such as Black, Indigenous, and people of color, the LGBTQIA+ community, immigrants, disabled, criminalized, unhoused, low income, and parenting students. I want this short summarized list to really sit with you. Because amongst these communities, there is light and beauty, but systematic barriers remain in place, preventing us from economic, social, and mental well-being. When I was 18, I was not worried about prom and decorating my dorm in a few months. I was worried about how my family and I were going to be forced out of the home we rented and be unhoused. I was worried that if I left home from college, I would not be able to continue to contribute to the finances of my household. I was worried if I could even afford college. I'm a first-generation student and immigrant who struggled immensely to make it through college. Young people have been told all of our lives to pursue the American dream by getting a degree as a path for the future. We followed that advice, and now we're being crushed by it. Young Invincibles, as an organization, has heard thousands of stories from young adults across Texas from how the lack of basic needs has prevented them from completing their education or finding a sustainable living wage job. Systematic racism affects all of us, and the Medicaid gap in Texas is a glaring example of that. Currently, there are over 5 million Texans covered by Medicaid and CHIP, but nearly an additional 2 million Texas residents could be covered if the state accepted Medicaid expansion. Mental health is preventative health. We must ensure access to mental health care and coverage for everyone, for every single Texas resident. We need to reform mental health coverage and restructure cost sharing under the Affordable Care Act so that all private insurance plans cover at least the first 3 mental health visits at no cost. Poverty in childhood and among adults can lead to poor mental health due to social stresses, stigma, and trauma. We must address the intersectionality of poverty, access to education, workforce opportunities, and mental health. We cannot allow these systematic barriers to persist. We must continue to fight by organizing and advocating for one another using the resources we have as a community. We are a community. This is our call to action for those decision makers. We will keep persisting until necessary changes are made to healthcare, housing, the justice system, immigration, and education. Let us stand together and take the necessary steps to ensure that mental health support is accessible to all. Why I stand in solidarity with all of y'all. And this is why I'm in the movement to take back the mic, raise our voices and votes, and make our power felt from the State House to the White House to be the change. Thank you.
All right, let's give another round of applause for our second round of speakers. Who's ready to make these demands a reality in Texas? All right, we're gonna have our last group of speakers come up, but we're gonna take just a small break for some song. So we want you guys to join in on these songs, and let's continue to build.
Unfortunately, I can't stay. There's 2 other protests I need to cover. We're going to go take a look at Charlie's, then we're going to City Hall. For a rally for Raza. Raza. Oh boy. Yeah. Lizards at the Capitol. And I didn't get arrested. That's all the singing there will be on this live stream. Sorry it's so shaky. I had to deal with other cameras and tripods and whatnot. Trying to do multiple things at once. I don't have all the best equipment, but we make do. A volunteer fireman, Confederate dead, talking about racism, white supremacy specifically. I think I will take some B-roll here.